Get ready to meet the Trailblazers driving the human change behind our clean energy future. This week, our Trailblazer is Francesco Venturini, CEO of one of the world's most innovative energy solutions companies, Enel X. Told to go out and break things, Francesco insists that the company's incredible success has never been about innovation for innovation's sake, rather a critically disciplined focus on value generation. Serving 500 million people with electricity every day puts this leader in a very powerful position to help accelerate the energy transition. We're here to fuel a new energy conversation, and it starts with you. Francesco Venturini, we are so excited to have you as a part of the Trailblazers series. Thank you so much for joining this conversation. Before we get underway and talk about your business, talk about your views on the state of energy, I want to understand a little bit about what drives you and where your passion around energy came from. Where did that start for you? Is there a moment that you can take us back to?
To be honest, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think that there is any specific moment. It was fate. When my first job was in the United States, and I worked for a company that substantially built process automation things for the energy industry. I was an accountant at the time, and that's an old story in the United States and then in Brazil with that company. And I got the first shot at the world of energy, meaning that, again, most of our customers were in the energy world. And then I got a phone call from a big company in Italy. Enel was looking for people with an international experience, possibly with an Italian passport. And at the time I was in Brazil, I got back and here we go. After 20 years, I'm still here in Enel. And I think that at this point, I can say that all my career was energy related somehow.
So it's incredible to me that an accountant finds himself running kind of the disruptive unit inside Enel. And I love this idea that when you took over as CEO in 2017, you were told to go out and break things to help reinvent the company. Can I ask you, what needed to be broken and how did you go about starting that journey?
Well, I'm surprised too. An accountant doing this, having this kind of experience is difficult to find elsewhere. But in reality, my job has always been find new ways of doing things in anything that I've done in my 25 years of career. The whole concept of breaking things is mostly related to the fact that, as you know, it's extremely difficult to do innovation in big companies. Actually, big companies are there not to do innovation because disruptive innovation is seen as something that destroys value. My objective here was try to understand what was coming in the energy world, how Enel could do something about it. So instead of just monitoring what the situation was around the world, was trying to figure out if we could move a step forward, be the first movers under certain circumstances, and try to anticipate things. The story is actually a strange story because I was the CEO of Enel Green Power at the time, and Enel Green Power was still is the biggest company out there, the biggest player in the renewable energy field, building gigawatts and gigawatts of capacity every year. And we were looking at different ways to innovate the way we were doing in the world of renewable generation to try to be more and more competitive. And I was enjoying my life. I was the CEO of a big company. We were, a public company in the stock market. So it was, and we were very keen, and we knew very well how to do things. So the whole machine was extremely well oiled. And one day I got a phone call from the head of HR saying, "Hey, we're thinking about, trying to create something new within the company in such a way that we can innovate a little bit more. Would you be interested in doing that?" And I said, "Oh, fantastic. Yes. I mean, Enel Green Power is keen to serve the rest of the group in doing this." And the answer was, no, actually, I mean, the idea is a little bit different. You would have to leave Enel Green Power and just dedicate yourself in building the future of Enel. I was like, well, I mean, here I have, a budget of a few billion euros a year. The business is very well oiled. I mean, the machine is fantastic. Everybody knows me. Why would I go and do something from scratch? So the first answer was no. Thank you. I really appreciate about you thinking about me, but I think that I really like what I'm doing. The second phone call was from my CEO, who said, you got a phone call from the HCAR vice president, and they were inviting you in thinking about something new. Well, this is not an invitation anymore. I think that that's going to be your job. So start packing up your things and figure out what your next office is going to be. Because honestly speaking, I think that if you guys need to do something new, it shouldn't be within the same building. And that was the story. I mean, I was. It wasn't exactly my choice, but today, 4 years later, I'm really happy of what happened, because I think that we have done an incredible job. The journey was fantastic. Enel X is today seen as one of the very few real innovative companies in the utility world. And again, we are not just building innovation, because I don't think that innovation can be built. We are building value for our stakeholders. So again, our shareholders, our customers, and that's the way I see innovation implemented within Enel X.
I would love to come back and touch on innovation again in a moment. But for those who aren't familiar with Enel and Enel X, can you give us a sense of what your company does? But can you also talk to us, one of the things I loved about what you said then was this idea of you came into a role where you had to have a very strong view of the future, and then you've got to build it, you've got to create it. So can you share not just what Enel does, but also what your view of what the energy future needs to look like is?
That's another very interesting, strange story at the same time. So at the very beginning, we had no idea what Enel X was supposed to be about. And that was the fun part and the scary part at the same time. We knew because we were the first ones talking about transition. We knew that the transition was happening. Everybody's talking about energy transition, and we used to go out to events and say, the transition. But to translate the concept of transition into facts is extremely difficult. So it's not just a matter of switching technology and generating energy from coal to renewables. It's trying to figure out in a world that is much faster and much broad in many ways, how the utilities were going to deliver their services, their products to their customers in the future. So what we have done first was saying, okay, this is the core business, so this is the traditional business, so we put it on a side, and everything that is Enel is a humongous group. Everything that is not strictly related to the traditional business, we take it and we put it in a bucket, and you guys need to figure out what to do with it. Hopefully there is going to be some value in it. If there is no value, just throw it away and figure out what's going to come next. So we took all the different pilot projects. Enel is a big group. Enel is either number one or number two as a utility in terms of volume in 10 different countries around the world. We are talking about a private utility that, just to give you a number, serves something like 75 million customers every day. And when I'm talking about customers, I'm really talking about meters. So we manage 75 million meters around the world every day. which again translates in supplying energy to almost 500 million people every day. So Enel is a very big company. As a utility, is also a very rich company. And as you can imagine, everyone, all the different countries, vice presidents, different units, we're trying to do some sort of innovation, doing things different. I mean, innovation means is a very broad term too. So they were doing different things. And one day we told them, look, I mean, everything that you're not doing that is strictly related to what you're supposed to be doing from now on is not your responsibility anymore. So tell us what you're doing, which is not your core business. And please put it on the side. Commercial contracts, processes, people, and from now on they're going to be part of a different group. So this is how Enel X was born. At the very beginning, the first thing that we had to do was to figure out what we inherited was, and we got something like 1,500 different people, 300 different commercial propositions, many different products, business models, and so on. And we need to figure out what was relevant, or what we thought was relevant to us, to Enel, what we really wanted to count on and develop, and instead what we thought that was something that was not relevant and we didn't want to develop. So the first 6-12 months was mostly try to figure out what we needed to shut down. That was the first thing. So taking things in a box and trying to figure out what Enel really was doing. I mean, I give you an example of how big Enel was. We discovered, because we literally, as a management team sitting in Rome, had essentially no idea that this existed. Enel in Colombia was able to develop 10 years earlier a credit card. Its own credit card, which during time had become the most popular credit card in Colombia. So we're talking about over 1 million customers. We during the past 10 years, we first developed the credit card, made a lot of money with the credit card, and sold the concept to a bank, and then bought back the concept from the bank. We were very strong in financial services, and we honestly didn't know at the time. So all the analysis was around what was in Enel and what we could do with it. And the other thing that we did, the other rule of the game was there is some stuff that is just pilot projects, something that is very beginning. There is some stuff that instead is very mature business, but we don't think it's core to what we do, which is generating, distributing, and selling energy. So we're not going to provide you with a venture capital fund. We're not going to provide you with special budgets. We're not going to provide you with R&D funds. We're going to provide, you are going to inherit some businesses that are not very efficient, but are cash generating businesses. So it's going to be up to you to make them more efficient, try to change the rules of the game in those businesses too, and then use those funds to figure out how to fund the rest. And this is how everything started. So as you can imagine, in the first 12, 18 months was chaos, totally. At the same time, we made a couple of acquisitions of new stuff that were started even before creating Enel X, adding over 1,000 people and different other businesses to the big mess that we already had. We changed office because, again, Enel X was supposed to be a standalone business, and we started the whole adventure. What is Enel X today? Enel X today is a company that does many different things. Obviously, from the 300 and over business models that we inherited, we went on a diet and we shrunk it to about 10 different things that we do and we really focus on. But the whole idea is in trying to figure out things that can generate new value for the customer and not creating new things. Things meaning object, product, services. How do we create new values, starting from the fact that we serve almost 500 million people with electricity every day. The company is structured in 6 different business lines. 3 are very segment oriented, so B2C, B2B, and B2G. We focus with 3 segments on a core thing that we really believe we're very good at, mostly mature businesses that we made more efficient, that are generating a lot of cash, and they're substantially funding the new ventures. So the 3 main businesses we're in is home assistance. That's the B2C world. We sell and install a lot of appliances into our customers' homes. For the B2B is flexibility. I'm a big believer in the fact that if we're moving, as we're moving fast towards a world of renewables, we need to have a very flexible system. So we need to create something that allows the system to afford to have more and more renewables in the future. And then in the B2G world, we are the biggest player in public lighting around the world. We manage about 2 million lighting points around the world. So these are the 3 main segments, mature businesses. Around these 3 mature businesses, then we created an ecosystem of different energies, products and services. And then we have 3 verticals where we need an extra focus. So one is e-mobility, another one is financial services, because again, we discovered that we're very good at it. We are currently developing another business. It's very strange, but it starts from the fact that we have so many customers, and we develop so much software, which is digital health. We right now are providing the first digital health services through our digital platforms, and this is Enel X. So as you can tell, is something between what I define it a Japanese conglomerate and a venture capital firm. We tend to squeeze as much as we can out of the mature businesses and try to push as much as we can onto the new businesses, because we really believe that they're going to be the future.
That is fascinating. It's one of the most extraordinary transformation projects I think I've ever heard about. I love the piece around getting the audit of what you are truly involved in, and the fact you found out you were the biggest, credit card provider in Colombia. I think that point around ruthless prioritization is so powerful. The 300 to 10 to 3 even. I'm interested in that too, because when we talk about transformation, and you've said, Enel X is sort of the Google of energy, whereas this whole new business model and this new way of thinking, that we need to be approaching the world of energy in terms of the models that can support what we need to see, the change that we want to see in the energy sector. I'm interested, how do you as a leader navigate some of the challenges? Like you mentioned offhand, the idea that you provide energy to 500 million people on any day. Now, that's a very challenging environment, I would imagine, to don't bite the hand that feeds you, I imagine is one of the line that comes through the business. Why would we play with something that's touching that many lives, the risk, the challenge, all of that? And as well, I can imagine 300 leaders of projects going, no, mine's most important. You absolutely have to agree to keep my project moving forward. How did you actually get the buy-in from the business necessary to drive that change? Have you got any advice to leaders listening going, wow, I'd love to be able to do a project a fraction of that size? What tips have you got for how to get buy-in for change?
I have to be extremely honest with you and with the people listening to this conversation. It is extremely difficult to implement innovation, to implement something new in big organizations. This is, probably it's obvious to many, but then when you need to go out and really do it, then when you really touch with your hand, the complexity. At the very beginning, when Enel X was incorporated, when we started this whole journey, we were a little bit how should I say, the company or the group of people to tease within Big Enel. Now, all our colleagues were looking at us and say, "Oh, poor thing. I mean, he used to be the CEO of Enel Green Power, or the other guy used to be the head of that specific department, and now they are on this boat, which is probably going to sink in the next 6 months." And then 6 months passed by, and the comment was, "Well, the first 6 months they just needed to figure out. It is a big group, but they just needed to figure out what they got. Another 6 months, and they're going to sink." And then another 6 months, and then another 6 months, and then I think that the discipline that we put in what we had to do, the focus that we dedicated to try to build a strategy, pursue it, and try to benchmark ourselves, not internally but externally, trying to monitor as much as we could the progress of what we're doing. Brought this small company from generating 40 million of EBITDA at the very beginning to a company that is 4 years later probably going to generate something around 10 times that value. And you don't see anything else, anything like this in our sector. So we're very proud of what we have done, but we're also very proud of the fact that we played by the rules of value generation. It was not just experimentation. It was not just pilot projects. It was not just about creating new things. It was about trying to figure out how we could implement again new value for the customer, starting from, as you said, the fact that we serve over 500 million people with electricity every day. The general complexity is in making people believe in what they're doing. And that's something that you can. That's probably not the most difficult piece of the equation, because at least at the very beginning, the people who joined Enel X voluntarily or involuntarily were extremely engaged. They really believe in the fact that we could do new things. But then when we started to shut down different projects, different business model, different commercial propositions, and so on, within the group around the world, the mood changed. When we had to work 12 or 16 hours a day to try to figure out how to close the month without losing too much money, then in the case, it was desperation. When we had to go out and talk to our customers and say, "Hey, look, we're not going to sell you energy anymore, but from now on, we're going to be your financial service provider," and people were laughing at us. That was extremely discouraging. And one thing is when you work in a startup and you know that all this is coming. One thing is when you're coming from a big group and you're impacting with this kind of reality. And in the case, as you can imagine, the mood changed and changed pretty fast. The other big thing was financial discipline. We didn't want to. We knew that we were out there to, in a way, change many things, try to create, again, this is extremely important, generate new value for both our companies and the customers. But we also knew that this value generation was something that we needed to do fast. We couldn't wait for 10, 15 years of losses, hoping that our business could somehow, sometime make money. We're not going to be Uber. We're going to be, create something that makes some sense now, focus on it, and make sure that can generate the value for the shareholders, because we're a public company, so people are not going to be willing to wait for too long. And that was extremely putting a lot of pressure to everyone. As I said, it was at the beginning. The whole concept was we are here to invent, create, change the world. But 9 months down the road, we are here to make money, to generate value, and that was tough. So I think that to give you an answer, the problems that we had to solve was engagement and maintain the engagement high during time. We had a lot of up and downs. And then at the end, when you start showing results, you solve this problem because people are proud of what they've done. But it's very difficult when you have so many businesses. Some of them are going up, some of them are going down. So to maintain the whole engagement always on is the tough part. And the second thing was financial discipline. We needed to make sure that we didn't waste because we had no opportunity to waste. We needed to make, as I said, some business run fast, try to be more efficient to then fund the rest. When we're talking about mobility is a business that everywhere in the world today, just look at the American market, is losing tons of money because it's creating the future. But to create the future, that means big investments at the beginning. And we had no money to waste. We needed to make sure that the other businesses were helping to fund the business of e-mobility. So I think that the mix of these different things was what really made our world tough at the beginning, but which is also what is providing a lot of satisfaction today.
I love that approach of sort of building the plane while you're flying it, and that combination of how you thought through that and that distinction that you made between value generation and doing new things. And they are not the same thing. You know, creating new for the sake of creating new does not equal value generation. I think that's such an important discipline to keep in mind when we're innovating. You touched on speed, and I wanted to talk to you about that because you mentioned energy transition earlier in your answers when you first joined, Enel X. Everyone's talking about energy transition. We read the IPCC report recently, and it's pretty damning state of affairs in terms of the picture it paints of the world. What's it going to take to accelerate energy transition? What are your sort of observations about that at a macro level globally?
Well, it's a very good question, but it's also a question that deserves a very complex answer because it's very broad. Obviously, there is a legacy world. As I was fighting the legacy world within Enel, trying to explain to my colleagues that my reason of existence was to not destroy the old, but to try to figure out how to exploit more the old to create the new. In the current energy world, we have a big chunk of the industry, which also was the richest part of the industry that is under attack. I mean, they know that 20 years down the road, they probably won't exist anymore. I'm talking about the oil and gas industry in general. And it's a very rich industry, obviously wants to survive more than 20 years, hopefully another 100 if they can. So they're investing a lot of money to stay alive. So that's obviously a force that you have out there that, we need to be honest, is slowing down the process as much as they can. It's a matter of survival. On the other side, I think that there is one big problem when we're talking about the energy transition. I mean, what are we exactly talking about? We're talking about a mix of different things. Energy transition is an attempt of moving, of drastically reducing the gases that we emit every day, and that are substantially generating a problem with the climate. So, as we know, we emit a lot of CO2, not only that is causing the climate effect. But on the other side, we also need to understand that that's not the only force that is pushing towards a big change in our industry. The fact is that digitalization, just to give you an example, is strongly also impacting our world. And it's not just a matter of, moving our systems from our own service to the cloud. It's try to understand how a business like ours, which is extremely regulated, which is our force, by the way, can avoid to be disrupted by, just to give you an example, the digital giants that we see both in China, in the United States, and so on. So it's a mix of different things. I think that we need to educate people to try to understand what we're focusing on. So definitely, one is we need to move faster with renewables. We need to fight climate change. The problem with climate change is that we don't know what the effect on our future is going to be. So it's very difficult to explain to people, hey, look, the world is changing. We are creating a problem, but we are not exactly sure what the effect of the effects of that problem are going to be. So I think that's the number one thing. Much more education will help to accelerate the transition towards a CO2 free energy world. But the other thing that we need to work on is, let me summarize with an expression, which is a buzzword, but in reality is an important word for every industry, which is customer experience. Utilities in general are not customer-centric. As I said, we're a very regulated business. We are used to have a very few contacts with our customers. And usually customers don't want to have too many contacts with us. They are ready to sign a contract at the very beginning. And then the only thing that they want to make sure is that lights goes on and off when they need to.
Definitely.
But I mean, there is no other reason for interaction other than receiving a bill every month and then paying the bill. But that's a problem for our industry because, as I said, we need to move more and more towards a way of engaging our customers that puts customer experience in the game. We saw this with the e-mobility. We focus, when we're talking about e-mobility in Enel, we obviously are mostly focused on building charging infrastructure around the world. And when we try, the charging infrastructure is the hardware, and then there are two pieces of the software. One is the back-end, which you use to control the hardware, and then there is a front end, which is the way you interface with your customer. And when I look at the way we are interfacing ourselves with our customers, I can honestly say that we kind of suck. It's extremely difficult for a company like ours to put together a customer experience that is decent. We're learning, obviously. I mean, we have been dedicating a lot of people, a lot of resources, a lot of money into this kind of change. But it takes a long time because as a utility, we are not accustomed to deal so much with the final customer. And that's a danger, because if you are not capable of doing that yourself, somebody who is much better than you in doing that will put himself in the middle. So you are going to be, secluded in generating, dealing with the commodity, which, by the way, again, is a commodity, so very difficult to differentiate. And somebody else is going to be in the middle and probably getting the highest margins. So on one side, we need to educate more and more people, trying to explain that we don't want to destroy what we've built in the past 150 years. We want to make a change because the world needs it, but at the same time, we want to make the change, trying to generate value for everyone, present and future generations. And I think that a lot of education is needed there. A lot of people don't understand what we're talking about. And on the other side, when you're looking at utilities, to accelerate the transition, we need to focus more and more on what the customer wants, how we generate value for the customer, and try to build a customer experience also in the way we interface. Just for selling energy, that needs to change. People needs to be to make sure that they really are going to support you in this journey, they need to be engaged. And to engage them, you need to provide value, which is very often provided through a valid customer experience.
Francesco, how does the future of energy conversation in your mind kind of intersect with the future of work, future of skills conversation? What are you finding, building the future in your organization? How has it changed the people that you're thinking about hiring or the skills that you think are important? So for those listening who are thinking about, if I want to play a role in the future of energy, what are the things I've got to make sure I'm learning, I'm building my competency in, I'm really getting a good handle on, because it's going to be future critical?
It's another very good question, because the world is changing so fast that competences, the competences that we need now are not the same competences that we needed 3 years ago. And we need to understand that what we need now is also going to be different from what we're going to need in 5 or 10 years. And that's the biggest challenge when you're talking about the future of work is, what is going to be needed in 10 years. So if I'm a kid, I'm 18 years old, I need to start college. What should I pick now, thinking about what the future is going to look like? It's not an easy question. Honestly speaking, I don't have an answer. Definitely, the digital component is going to be much higher, and much more important for every single industry, and especially in ours. I want to clarify something. When you're talking about energy, we need to understand that Enel X is, I would say, 50% related to the world of energy, and another 50% completely separated. I mean, as no real contact implication with that world, other than the fact that those businesses are owned by a utility, and we very often, but not always, serve the same customers. So if we're looking at the traditional utility world, you're going to need always the same kind of people. So, technicians, engineers, people who really understand how to generate, distribute, and sell energy. But I think that I see energy a little bit like, I see my world a little bit like the telecom world 15, 20 years ago. At the time, you probably remember, the telecom world was on a hype. Everybody was looking at the telecom companies like the companies where the real value was, but they missed a great opportunity to link their capacity, their skill in moving data around with content. They were not able to put content in the data. And then the big digital giants came up, and they substantially stole the big margins. And now telecom companies, very low margin, generating a commodity, and the big digital giants are the ones really making the big bucks. I see our world pretty much in the same way. Especially when you're talking about a regulated business that is more and more going towards strong liberalization, where you see that renewables are pushing margins down, generally speaking, all over the world. Then we need to figure out how to create the content that will go together with those electrons. And that's where Enel X comes to play. Our job is really to try to create that content, which is obviously is not going to be movies, but different services, different value creation for our customers based on our main skills. And in that case, if you want to do that, any skill is going to be valid. Meaning, again, we have a big structure focused on financial services. So as you can imagine, being able to supply, build, and work around financial services doesn't need an engineer, a nuclear engineer. Needs a completely different kind of skill. But the two things are extremely related. So let me give you an example. 75 million customers around the world. Okay, 75 million meters, not customers. Now, 75 million every month a bill. So you have 75 million bills every month.
That's enormous.
Multiplied by 10, 750. By 12, you're talking about 900 million bills every year that needs to be issued and then paid. So you can imagine if I can take just a chunk of that value and pair it with my financial service division. In that case, I can generate tons of value for the final customer, probably, because it's going to be much cheaper and much easier for him to pay the bill. At the same time, for the company, my shareholders, because at that point, I'll be the big bank within the utility world. And this needs completely different kind of skills. Obviously, they're not the traditional engineers working in energy. They're people thinking about how to link the world of the commodity together with the financial services and trying to generate value.
I love that. And I wanted to ask you about, you touched on earlier your journey as an innovator and your sort of observations around commentary in the business. Oh, poor Francesco, he's got to go and lead this new innovation startup and they won't be around in 6 months. And this whole series is called Trailblazers because of people like you, people who have blazed a trail and are challenging people to say, not only is there a different way of doing things, but it's doable. We're here building the future and come on the journey with us. I wanted to ask you from a personal standpoint, how challenging has it been to be the one doing things differently? And are there any strategies you've got for people who feel a bit overwhelmed by the doubters, the naysayers, the haters in the process, for how you've kind of stayed firm and strong and kept yourself energized so that you could lead the team and lead the enormous amount of work that you had on your plate?
I live of emotions like everybody else. So as you can imagine, there were a lot of ups and a lot of downs. Hopefully, likely we had more ups than downs, and so now we are still here, and we are extremely motivated by the results that we are bringing in every month. What was important? Obviously, I had to have a CEO who believed in what we were doing, who had the patience, at least enough patience to give us the time enough patience to give us the time to build something that was valuable. Believe in the fact that there was the possibility of generating more value for our shareholders, but again, also for our customers. So having a CEO with a vision, obviously not a clear vision. It couldn't, it wasn't like, now you go there and this is the list of things that I want you to do in such a way that you can generate value. The vision was, I believe that there is the opportunity here. I believe that transition is a complex world, and around it we can generate value. I have no idea how to do it, but what I can do for you is provide you with the tools, and you guys then need to go out and figure it out. And this obviously is extremely important. If you don't have a CEO, somebody who empower you, again, shareholders or a CEO in this case, that empower you and give you the tools to do it, it's going to be impossible. If, as I see in many companies, they generate special purpose vehicle to do a specific project, or they build a venture capital fund, but they don't really believe in the fact that there is the opportunity of generating value. Usually 6 months later, everything collapses and things don't go well. So having a vision, having somebody understanding that there is value to capture, and then allowing you to do it. That was definitely number one, one of the most important pieces that then helped us to solve the equation. The other thing that we leveraged on was focus. The big risk when you innovate, when you try to do something different, when you try to build a business model, is that you change your mind every week because you see that things don't respond as fast as you would like them to respond. And especially when you do it in a big group, there is not that entrepreneurship that you would find out in the street. So the fact that we needed to focus, yes, we build silos within Enel X where people are very much focused on a special business or a specific business model or a specific product. That was extremely important. Yes, on the other side, there is very often they complain, especially in my team, that there is not enough interaction between the different silos and that we are not exploiting the cross-selling opportunity. But in my opinion, we are so at the beginning of this journey that if you don't focus and you don't build a strong business at the foundations, then the risk again is that sooner or later it's going to collapse. So before thinking about cross-selling, let's make sure that that the specific product, that the specific service is performed well and is accepted by customers. And then, as I said at the very beginning, financial discipline. I mean, that's another thing that we needed to have. We needed to not believe in the fact that there was a big Enel behind us, providing funds for every single idea, brilliant or stupid, that we had. We needed to make sure that with the money that we were generating, we could survive. I think that has been a very, very important element of our success because it made us think about creative ways of generating value within the company in the short term, making sure that we could develop what we believe needed to be developed. And then there is the last thing that comes to my mind, which is give freedom to the people of going against the general thinking, the general culture here. So when at the very beginning I talked about the digital health division, which is a small group of people, we're talking about probably 10, 15 guys who build a little business within Enel X, starting from something that we already had in place. So they transformed a digital platform that was already in our portfolio in something that could be used, especially during COVID, to support the emergency. And from that little platform during the emergency, now we see a lot of potential value generation in the future. Nobody believed in it at the beginning. Everybody was saying, "But what is digital? What does digital health has to do with an energy company?" Well, I mean, what do financial services have to do with an energy company? What are the many things that we do that have to do with an energy company? Again, we need to remember that we are trying to combine content with electrons. So it's not important to have a direct link. It's important to build the link during time. And so giving the opportunity of these guys to go out, experiment, always being conscious of the fact that they needed to be financially disciplined, now is building another new business within Enel X, which I really honestly believe that in a couple of years is going to be extremely important to us.
Very exciting. Now, Francesco, I'm so grateful for the time that you've spent with us, and the transformation you've led is quite extraordinary. And I guess I want to finish with a question for those who are inspired by everything you've shared and are thinking about how they take the ideas of your disruption, your transformation at Enel X and apply it to their world and context. What's one thing they can leave listening to our conversation and go do? What's a first step that you'd encourage people to go and take?
I think that it very much depends on where they are. If they are in a big utility, in a big group, in a big company, in a big corporation, what they need to do is to trying to put together a small group of people and try to build a business model, not thinking about innovation as something that needs to be necessarily disruptive within their core business, but something that can really generate value at the beginning, even only for the final customer, and then eventually, because it always happens, for the group that they work for. It's not going to be easy. They need to find internal support, but the strong advice is that if they really believe in what they're doing, not to give up. If we're talking about instead entrepreneurs, I think that the most important lesson that I have learned here is that to change the world, you need to have a very strong discipline. And the discipline very often is confused by the people looking at you in blind belief in what you're doing. In reality, it's not being blind. Is really trying to push forward things, and to push things forward is you need to be assertive in many ways. So it's a completely different approach from a big group. In a big group, you need to create a team, convince the team of the value that you're doing, and then push things forward, trying to create value for the final customer. When you're outside, you need to be extremely assertive. You need to make sure that you're very disciplined, and you need to make sure that people don't see you as a blind believer, but you need to make sure that what you're doing at the end creates as much value as the group within the big corporation. Because at the end, innovation is one thing. You need to generate, as we said, new value for the customer. You don't need to build necessarily new things. We are full of technology. There is tons of technology all over the world. Technology is not going to change your life. The way you use the technology and the way you build content on that specific technology is really what is going to generate value for the final customer. And in the case, it's going to generate value for you.
Sensational. What sage wisdom to end with there. Francesco, thank you so much for your time. Enel and the Enel X journey is an extraordinary inspiration for anyone who's thinking about large-scale transformation, the possibility of making serious grounded progress in a considerably short period of time. So I want to thank you so much for the way that you've talked us through your journey and for the contribution you're making to leading the charge on new business models, on innovation, on just challenging what this space can look like in the future. And thank you for your time as part of the series today.
Thank you very much. Thank you to you all.
Thanks to EY for partnering with us to amplify people following the path of most resistance. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and subscribe to the series. Are you a trailblazer or inspired by a trailblazer? Leave a comment, let us know, join the movement.